Troubled is a podcast by survivors of institutional abuse for survivors and the general public. We have this project in an effort to, through our self-advocacy, raise general awareness about the troubled teen industry and institutional abuse as it pertains especially to youth in the United States and globally. Kids in Cages is a historically American, I don't even want to call it a phenomenon, but I really wish I could, where since the assimilation of indigenous peoples, we have had this going on in America, and we're looking at currently millions of your neighbors who are suffering from complex PTSD disorder and a host of other complications that resulted from their exposure to these toxic prolonged stress hormones in these behavior modification programs that exist today and have widely since the 60s and 70s, beginning in the late 1940s. So we hope you enjoy this podcast, and please, as you can, and giving yourself trigger warnings. Hey guys, super trigger warnings. Be gentle with yourself, but jump down this rabbit hole with us, baby steps or head first. There's a total support system for survivors, specifically usually by survivors, and we do have tons of resources we'd like you to reach out to on our other podcasts and on our pages. We'll outline them for you, specifically the Survivors of Institutional Abuse.org and Troubled Teens Reddit, to connect with other survivors and get access to mental health support and legal access. So with that being said, here is episode 5 of Troubled. P.S. So hopefully you guys are super used to our tech glitches at this point, and if you'd like to donate equipment to us, then maybe we'll get around it. But right now we're using Anchor and we're using our cell phones, and so per usual, super massive magical tech glitch where my audio is a second too soon or a second too late. Fortunately, it's a little uncomfortable at certain points, especially because it makes us talk over each other, although you can understand everything, and that's not the worst part. The worst part is that there are long dead silences and inappropriate giggles, and it's just weird. It makes it seem like we don't have epic family three chemistry, and we do. So if it's really bothersome, and I totally dig it, then just skip to my section with Miranda and House Brother. But I don't want you to miss out on the Meredith part, and I promise I let her take the lead in the first parts that are all broken up, which are broken up because we missed the anonymity clause a few times, but it shouldn't disturb you too much, and thank you for trying, and so sorry. Thanks.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our latest episode of Troubled, our podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a really amazing guest today. He's our house brother. He will, one thing to keep in mind, he will remain anonymous throughout this whole podcast. That is his, that's what he wants, and we're going to respect that. So we're going to call him, I think it's a great name, our house brother, because we do have a more intimate relationship with this person. We had very direct contacts within our situations here at the family school. So yeah, that I want to mention that. I want to make that clear. So let's get it started. Now, house brother, this is gonna be so funny. I don't have, so for me, this whole experience has really just been about documenting our time at the family school, what happened to us, what kinds of experiences we went through. And so I guess I just want to start off with I want to start off with your, starting out your experience, not necessarily why you got sent there, because that doesn't really matter, but
it's the first table topic. Should we bring him up to the table? Hey, house brother, why were you sent here?
Oh my God, yes. Go ahead.
I was sent to the family school because I got busted breaking into a friend's house and stealing his Game Boy.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was the tipping point for my family. My family has a very big name from the area that I'm from. So this was like a big smudge on their name, so they needed to get me out of there. So
Makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hide the delinquent.
Yeah, pretty much that's what it was. Send him away, get him fixed, and then if he's better, bring him back, which never happened. So
You never went home.
Nope, never was allowed to visit the house I grew up in during home visits. I was never allowed to visit my hometown. I stayed with my aunt and uncle whenever I went on home visits. My mother didn't want me back in the house.
And
Wow.
that kind of is like a thing even to this day, isn't it?
That continued up until about 2 years ago. And I've been out from the family school for 10 years, 11 years.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
So it took almost a decade for you to start rebuilding a relationship with your mom.
Yeah, like to that point. We had a...
What is she...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, what does she think now? Like currently, where does she on this experience?
So now she, it wasn't until this past year that she said that maybe sending me to the family school wasn't the very best thing for me.
Whoa, that's huge.
Yeah, because until then it was, oh, the family school did amazing things for you. The Argyros family, they took you in and they did so much for you. They offered you so many different opportunities, and they didn't really want to hear the bad parts. It wasn't until the New York Times article came out and the Family Foundation School Truth Campaign was more readily available and more out there, that my mother finally started to see everything.
Wow. Yeah, and which happened within the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Really, 2 years.
Yep.
Because, yeah.
So my mother's side of the family was very pro family school. My father's side of the family did not agree with it and thought it was very detrimental to my mental well-being. So
yeah. So okay, so you stole a Game Boy?
A Game Boy. And I stole a Pokemon game with it.
Oh, that's a real violence.
I was a klepto too, though. I stole like so much shit.
Same. Barbie toys. Like if you brought out your Barbies, I was taking like your little babies.
It was just like
and their
a
bottles.
thing. It wasn't because I wanted. Actually, I did steal some Christmas gifts and like gave them as gifts. But that was like when you're like, that's like the thing to do. If you were reached the age of 12 and you didn't steal a Snickers bar from the grocery store, like you weren't cool.
Well,
okay. So let's take a moment to remind people this podcast is obviously not for children. If we're telling them.
But I mean, like, no. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't recommend it. But it's like a thing that like you're pressured to do. You know,
it's almost like a rite of passage.
I felt it. Yeah, I mean, it's not right. I don't advocate people doing it, but it was, they're, anyway, I want to know what, like when you first got to the school, like, what was like, walk us through like your first day.
Okay.
Not like we weren't there or anything, but would love to have your side of the perspective.
So, October 27th, 2003 was when I was brought to the family school. I remember very clearly. They still had a bunch of Halloween decorations up because I guess the weekend before there was a Halloween dance or something. I remember the 2.5-hour drive from my family's house, not knowing anywhere what was going on, really. I had an idea. I was told that I was sort of like an army training kind of place, which my dad was all. my father was in the military, so it was all what he wanted. He wanted to send me to military school, and they found this.
Wow.
And so I was under the impression that I was going to like a military school. And when I walked up the stairs and I saw that giant Jesus statue, I very concerned about what kind of military school this was.
I just remembered that statue.
Yeah.
Shit.
I don't remember the statue yet.
Oh my God. Well, okay. You weren't there as long as us.
Walking I just remember going in. I had dressed pretty much the way that everyone else was dressed because my mother was like, "You have to dress this way, and you have to put on a good impression." So I was already wearing a button-down shirt. I was already wearing nice jeans and nice shoes and everything. And I remember going into the locker room and having pretty much everything that I had tossed. Any books of drawings that I had done or writings that I had done was all tossed out. Anything from home was just gone. So
really, they like threw it in the trash. They didn't like, oh well, this is gonna go back with your parents, like to your home. It was like garbage.
yeah, because at first they thought it was just notebooks, and then they started looking into it because it was all in like composition notebooks. So like everything I had was gone. And I just remember the whole squatting cough and
Squatting cough.
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
And then I remember just coming out and like not seeing my family and having no idea what was going on. And I think it was about dinner time because I got there pretty late. And having to sit down and pretty much try and figure out the social norms of who I can talk to and who I can't talk to and who I'm allowed to bump into and who I can't. And
who you're allowed to bump.
Like within like the first,
you like can't touch anyone. You can't touch any girls anyway.
No, and in I believe the first or second week, the new people were all put on personal blackouts, so we had no communication with each other because there was like 5 or 6 new kids in the family all at the same time.
Really? I don't remember this.
I remember.
Wait, you said there were 5 new kids in our family when you
like
came
around
in?
around the same week. We were all.
Yeah, and if you're new, I remember. Really? I remember I came in with someone and I could not talk. We were literally came in within like 2 days of each other and we could not talk to each other. And we would just like look at each other and like snicker and be like,
yeah.
But yeah, they like wouldn't let any new kids talk to other new kids.
Yeah.
6-month blackout.
Yeah. Yes.
No,
yes.
it wasn't 6-month blackout. It was personal. We got put straight on personal.
I don't even remember the types of blackouts.
So they did that with me when people came from Connecticut. They'd put us on personal. And I never knew any of these people, but they were
just like,
figured
you're from the
small
same
enough,
state.
right?
Like the chances that you know each other are very high. So they can't talk to each
other. Well, you know what? Honestly, at least one of them was actually sent there through the same tough love group as my parents. So it's possible that all of them were, right? Recruited.
Well,
I had the same thing too.
My middle school principal's son was at the family school. He's no longer with us. He passed away last year.
Oh damn.
But yeah, I remember when I met the kid and they said his last name and I was like, wait, is your dad? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, you're the reason I got sent here because your dad told my parents.
Wow.
And then in my last year there, I bumped into a new kid and I was like, oh, hi, where are you from? And just trying to be nice. And he said, this city or this state. And I was like, oh, what county? This county. I was like, oh, what town? And he said my town. And he looked at me and he said my name. And I was like, oh, crap. And like I was like, all right, I can't talk to you at all. So super small world.
Well, I think they had some pretty heavy recruiting in certain local areas they built up over the 3 decades.
Yeah, 100%. Or it was really more of a, because I know when I was sent there, I had a friend from church, my mom's good friend. That's the reason I was sent there. Like it was like if you knew somebody, their mom or dad probably told someone, oh, is your kid, troubled? No pun intended.
Right. Oh, Bobby did that. Bobby stole a Game Boy. We sent him to this great boarding mountains.
He gets to run around with other kids. It's so great for them.
Listen, one of the reasons
they have a lake and a dog.
I was sent there. My mom was like, "Oh, Meredith, they have such a great, acting and chorus and show program. You're gonna love it."
Sorry, I totally envisioned your mother wearing like pearls and like a floral dress, saying this to you with curlers in her hair.
Literally, that's what she said to me, though. She was like, you know, you can sing and you can dance, and they go to Washington, D.C., and it's like, and I was like excited about that.
Good God, like that's the opposite of what I think went down. I mean, you did have a little bit of a show choir, but I was in real show choirs in real high schools, and that was not the situation.
I honestly liked it. That was actually the only time there that I actually had some not peace of mind. I don't think I was ever at peace there, but I think it was like a just good distraction for me to sing and to dance and to do that was but yeah, like, I mean, come on, it's not fucking Juilliard. It's not like
Word. And dude, yeah, I lived for those granola bars, those Quaker Oats granola bars, but they're not real granola bars.
exactly,
You know what I'm saying? Like in the situation.
I don't eat anything that I would have eaten at the family school anymore.
Same. Although it did open up my world to grapefruits.
Nope, because I got those. A very, very particular person who liked to make my life while I was in the corner hell and give me a grapefruit with no sugar and no spoon.
Ooh.
So
see, I don't have well, you know what? This is about you. What I don't have that though. Like when they would give me tuna fish, I would like love it. I'm like, I ate tuna. I grew up on this. Like, give me tuna fish. Give me tuna for dinner, bitch.
I got there right when tuna stopped.
Yeah.
So it was mapo or cream of wheat for anyone who doesn't know.
Soy burger.
And a cold soy burger on an English muffin.
Cold soy burger too on an English muffin. What?
I was also there when they started the hot soy burger program, and that was just as bad.
Honestly, either or was bad.
Unless
you put some ketchup on it, I don't see how.
Yeah, so I was on that diet for a week. I don't know if you guys are. Excuse me. I don't know if you. My cat jumped in my lap and scared me. I don't know if you remember, but I was on that for a week.
No, I remember plenty because like they were always torturing you with something.
Yep.
It was like almost a torture to just watch. I think both me and you were particularly targets of torture.
Well, we never.
But like I just remember being like, God, they won't give up. Like they just won't. Like, and I would see you being like tortured, and you would take it like a fucking man, and I
seriously,
was like, God, like
respect.
I don't know how he's dealing with this. How is he living through this? And yet, like, there were days where I would still see you smile, and I would like smile back and like be like, how are you doing? And you'd be like, you were just so fucking tough and brave, and like you're one of the biggest, in my opinion, you're one of the biggest success stories to come out of there. And yeah, anyway, so your first day you came in, what was like the ensuing experience? Like, did you acclimate easily, or like what was because I don't even know if I remember. I just remember the low points, I feel like, for all of us.
I remember bits and pieces. The medication I was on.
Yeah, you don't even have like a great memory, do you?
No.
Yeah, but let's talk about it. So there was a medication element, and then obviously trauma. But
I was on Zoloft, and I think I was also on either Adderall or Ritalin at the time, whichever one was more popular. And I don't remember a good portion of my childhood anymore because of this stuff. But I also I have PTSD from before I went to the school. So like pretty much from the age of 5, I've been compartmentalizing and like separating awful things in my mind and just like pushing them aside, so that I don't have to handle it very openly. Which still happens today, which is another issue that I still have to handle myself. But I don't remember major portions of the family school. I remember sitting over by the phone and like looking at all the movies, and someone was like, oh, they're just there, and I was like, oh, they're for show. But someone misheard me and thought I was talking like for show, like an inner city kid, and I was like, no, I don't, that's not what I'm portraying. But it got quickly turned that I was like trying to act gangster and tough, and I was like, that's not who I am at all.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. I remember the circle ups in the dorm the first night I was there. I was like, I have no idea what I stepped into. I need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Boys
Yeah.
circle ups were. You guys talked about women's circle ups. Boys circle ups were way worse.
Yeah, explain circle ups, because we just briefly touched in one of mine on stuff that happened to Brianna specifically in circle ups.
But you were talking about
what's
circle ups in the dorm,
Yeah.
right? Because I remember we did that in the girls' dorm, but after like my first couple months, that wasn't really a thing.
Oh no,
very much.
It stayed.
But I know it was for the boys.
Yeah, it stayed every night. So every night we would get into the dorms. Every night we'd have like 5 minutes to set our jackets down or get ourselves situated, and then we would all meet in the front room of the trailer. I don't really know the middle room, like the biggest portion of the trailer, and we'd all circle up and we'd make a purity oath for the night that none of us were going to diddle ourselves, and we would then ask who broke it, and we all just looked around the room, and if it was a continuous issue, I guess it would get brought up to staff and like to Father Steve, like to the priest, and yeah. So the first night that I was there and I saw them just talking about this, I was like, oh my God, this is really weird.
Such a thing. This is such a thing. It was not a thing with the women. There were so many table topics about getting boys up and like, we know that you're, doing this
Yeah.
in the middle of it. But the girls never had this issue.
What are you talking about? Pause and think about it, because it's funny that it's you of all people who's saying that.
About like masturbating. Yeah, like no, this is always a thing. Like there were so many table topics in our family about masturbating with the boys,
and there were girl ones.
Here's
with the girl.
Are you kidding? Oh my God, I don't want to call you out right now.
It was made not so public towards the guys because they didn't want to corrupt the guys with those ideas.
Right, like, oh, can't think about a girl masturbating.
Yeah. I remember.
Well, I think they would have rather triggered that actually, so that they could punish you guys for it.
I remember when I had moved families, they had a girl do a 10th step where she read all the things that she had suffered through that day and like struggled with, and they mentioned impure thoughts. And for the guys, for me, they would ask me who specifically, which was very embarrassing.
Oh, but
for this girl in particular, they're like, don't read out loud who you had issues with because we don't want to give anyone a swollen head. And I didn't realize that was a double innuendo or entendre or whatever there. So yeah.
Oh, I just got it right now. I just got that. That's really gross. That's really gross because that's coming from not from you.
Yeah.
I'm saying from the adults that did that around you kids. That's what's gross,
someone
because they probably knew that.
We left the family school because we never really called anybody out and been like, oh yeah, I had impure thoughts about Miranda. But I had someone tell me afterwards about this, and this I was in love with this kid. How he would and this guy came to me and he would tell me all the time he had impure thoughts about me, and I was like, what? Like speaking about me, this kid who I was in love with had impure thoughts about me, and he would tell him every night, and I was like, oh my God, tell me more.
Oh my goodness.
And what were those?
Oh my God! And what were those thoughts?
You can never be like, yeah, get up and I had impure thoughts about Meredith. Like that never was a thing.
No,
I don't think. Yeah.
No, not in our family publicly, but I did when I was visiting other families also actually see the naming. And then secondly, I did, and you guys were there, see a female not calling up, at least one that traumatized me, get called up for masturbating, but I don't believe it was true. And then on the second side, on my, inventories and 10th step, I was asked who I had that whole thing with Tom and then actually Cameron, and I had to go with Tina and Pam and talk to my junior sponsor about it and everything. So I think it might have been. I think that our adult sponsors had a lot to do
Yeah.
with the kind of
So I
experience
had
that you were
Yeah.
I
actually
had
going to
Mike
have.
Argyros.
Do you know what I mean?
I had the golden child who I never saw because he was
Ooh.
everywhere else.
Did.
Right. I told Meredith, I was like, I thought we had it kind of easy at dinner topics because Mike and Cindy were
Yeah.
like always in another
Mike was
family
never there.
destroying another kid's life.
They hardly ever came to dinner. They were
Yeah.
a lot of times during the week at
Lunch and a few
Like-
breakfasts, depending on who was going to be there. Like if you had, if you had like
and it
the
was mostly
priests
during the
or
week.
anybody who were going
Right.
to stay in family 3, which happened a lot. Like
You were fucked if you had Cindy, Mike, and Chris
Yeah.
Stein. I would watch and Angelo.
yeah, Yeah.
That was like that. Oh, that was.
Oh. Our house brother loves Angelo. House brother, tell
I
us
remember
about our
very
best friend
specifically one
Angelo,
time
because you love him,
he
right?
was spacing
Yep.
out, just looking off into space, and I waved my hand, and he looked at me, and I said hi, and he said go right to the corner.
I think I remember that.
I think I remember that, but I remember multiple times where if you just made eye contact with
Yeah.
like Angelo, he was
That
just like,
man,
okay,
I think
corner,
about that stare.
go
that
in the
you're talking
hallway.
about, and now at the time I was like, "What's wrong, Angelo?" But
Yes.
now I just think, was he fucking like coked out or something?
Well, he relapsed while we
No.
were all three of us
No.
were in family 3. Do you guys remember that? You don't remember when he was gone for like a couple weeks? And my memory, because of the trauma, is really weird too. So I don't know when things fall along the sequential line. And I don't know if it was right after Tom, but it makes sense to me because he was the original person who went out there and watched Tom die. But Angela was gone for like over a week. I think it was 2 weeks. And I don't remember how it got out. Do you? And the thing was, because he had to, like, they addressed it very briefly in like one meal about how like this is why you're always
you
an addict.
remember so much like different specific things than I do, and our house brother. Like,
Yeah,
girl, we all do.
I remember
it's puzzle
really
pieces.
I remember Angelo and Paul running to see Tom because I was out there.
Oh, we should tell our. Did we go over this?
Yeah.
With Tom and how
what
we did.
Yeah.
I did in my story because I, like our house brother, was out there. Yeah, house brother, you were there. Are you comfortable talking about this?
It wasn't until like a year ago that I wasn't comfortable talking about it.
Yeah, because this was like perhaps the most tragic thing to happen at the school.
At the time, I was on exile and work sanction, so I was in the hallway.
And you were in 2?
No, I was with you guys.
Oh, he was in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
he was with us in 3.
I was standing out there waiting for my shadow to come and take me to work sanction, which would have been the laundry barn. Yeah, and so I was.
Yeah,
which is my favorite work sanction.
Miranda was by the door. I don't remember you being there. I remember everything.
I wasn't there. I was inside.
No, I remember everything in slow motion, just seeing him fall and landing.
God.
And then I remember seeing, I just remember looking down the hallway trying to figure out, what do I do? I remember seeing Angelo running in very slow motion. I remember seeing Paul Gear running in very slow motion, which, not to make light of a situation, but it reminds me of the Kool-Aid Man running in slow motion. But I just remember standing there and then my shadow grabbing me by the shoulders and running with me down to the laundry barn. And I was not allowed to look back. I wasn't allowed to talk about it. I wasn't allowed to say anything. We didn't get any counseling. We didn't get anything for this. And
no, it was we
we
were brought up to the church to get told, and then they were like, what did they say? I don't even remember. I just remember Rita talking about it.
I don't even remember. Wait, I do. But I was brought in later because I was work sanctioned. They didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So.
per your Kool-Aid comment, this isn't no, it's so important. Like like our deep, dark, sarcastic senses of humor to cope with our trauma, like that is fascinating. And I love the Kool-Aid man analogy. And I think that that's something we should embrace about
I
survivorhood, and it's an
I
interesting
constantly
psychological
make fun
rabbit
of
hole
my
to jump
own
down.
my own mishaps and my own upbringing and everything constantly. Like, I'm adopted, and one of my constant jokes is pretty much about my adoption, and a lot of my coworkers and a lot of my friends hate that I joke about it, but it's the easiest way that I can cope with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good for you. It's not about it's not about them. And also, all the regular stuff that comes with being adopted, and now you have it compounded out on that, like, as a very young teenager,
Yeah.
you were sent away from home and you never went home.
Yeah.
So talk about some serious deep-seated rejection to double
That fucking
validate.
hits me to my core,
Like, that's
man.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think you're excellent. You're an excellent human being. And so of all people, like, not that anybody deserves that if that were the case in the first place, but you of all people, like, for you to believe on any level or to be afraid that you're unlovable or rejectable,
Right.
that just
And I
hurts,
mean, I
because
even saw that at the
that's not
family
fair at
school,
all.
like being
That's
put
not
on
true.
exile 3 times, switching families, being switched sponsors and junior sponsors constantly. It doesn't do anything but reaffirm that idea deep in my mind that, like, that's what was going on. And they
Right.
even brought it up at a table topic
Which is the problem with PTSD.
that my birth mother didn't want me, my adopted family didn't want me, and this family doesn't want you, like, me. Like, they really
Whoa.
knew how to hit us, like, where it really hurts sometimes.
Yeah.
So. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is the not weirdest thing that was wrong, but which is why when I talk about the correlation or causation element of the traumas inflicted on children in these programs, like, you cannot convince me that these people didn't on some level know what they were doing and strategize when they were breaking these children and psychologically damaging them, because, like you're talking about, they researched you, they figured out what your weaknesses were, they figured out what you cared about, that and then they exploited that in order to psychologically abuse and manipulate.
Oh my God. I think that was their. And do you remember? I don't know if you remember this, but I just remember getting, like, specifically with Angelo, Chris Stein, even Cindy and Mike a little. I would just, like, they would use certain things against me. Like, Chris Stein would get me up at the table all the time and be like, Meredith, why aren't you losing any weight? You're, after I lost like 100 pounds when I was first there. And, like, I would be like, I'd be like, I'm on straight half portions. You don't allow me to eat any candy on the weekends, nothing. I don't know what else I can do to fucking lose weight. Should I just tell my fucking body? Like, I've always had weight issues. I have an endomorphic system. I have a slow metabolism. My hormones are all out of whack. I just don't lose weight easily. And I remember, like, just getting up there and he would just berate me. Like, why aren't you losing weight? Gee, I don't know. Let me ask my metabolism, Chris. Like, like, and he did the same thing with everybody. And the fucked up thing is that I could see that he would enjoy it. Oh my God, there was some sort of sick, twisted, like, satisfaction that they would get from pointing out these things. Oh, it's just, it makes
well, there's
me
social
sick.
Psychologists. He's in his own mind. Yeah, they're doing experiments, like, and so that was the thing for me. Like, I wonder, and I try not to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, but at the time that I was at the school, I was wondering who was really behind it. What was the genuine, real, other than making money on these kids? What was the real purpose? Because for me, growing up reading dystopic books, Orwell, Night, all this shit, right? I'm looking at this is a brilliant, albeit, like, completely unethical and horrific social experiment that they're doing to learn how these psychological things work on children. And so
maybe they're,
what's up with that? Like, I wonder if they were, like, a lot of the people that were involved in this, as we go back, are the ones that are involved in these think tanks for the GOP and whatnot.
Like, the Synanon
so maybe they were
principles, or I don't know if there was any, like, I know that their Alcoholics Anonymous played a part in it, but like, I wonder if that was just this twisted. It was so twisted. Like, this is the kind of psychiatry that they're using based on Synanon techniques, or I don't know. You would know that better than me, but yeah, this kind of psychiatry was so fucking twisted. Ugh. Whatever. They
It's not psychiatry. We're sorry.
Let me
Blurp.
tell you, they must have thought. No, but like,
did they call it psychiatry? Did you guys have any like actual like? Because I know Terry was allegedly doing therapy. House brother, did you ever have like any therapy sessions? Because outside of the
your medications were working. That was the only real form of therapy I ever saw. And it was, I forget what the doctor's name was, but he came to see you like once every 2 or 3 months and be like, how are you feeling? Do you want more? Do you want less? Doesn't matter. You're gonna get less down the line. I remember, because that was the thing. They wanted all of us off of our medications. I remember
their goal was to get you off the meds, which, in my mind now, of course, I think that's a good thing. But
I mean, no, but no, and no.
Yeah, the way they did it was just.
I will say
the way they
no
did it wasn't exactly the right way.
Unless they really need it, needs to be on Zoloft or Adderall or Ritalin. And I was on all three of those from the ages of like 8 to 15.
I was on liquid lithium, literally liquid lithium, shit they give to like serious psychiatric patients, people who don't have control of their minds.
Right.
Like, yeah, nobody.
I agree.
Well, if it had been 30 years earlier, we probably would have gotten electroshock therapy as like a team, like family electroshock.
One
like
of the
it would
staff
be great.
members asking out loud, "Why are all the girls on these little packet pills?" It was birth control.
Oh, I remember that.
It was.
Yes.
When was that?
There were some girls that had to be.
Was that after me?
Because their periods. The reason I'm on it now.
I was supposed to be on it, but I wasn't on it. I don't remember. Maybe that's why I was at the nurse every day. I don't know why I was at the nurse all the time.
They were like, yeah, they gave him birth control. It wasn't because nobody was having sex there.
Well, I mean, a couple kids got away with it that we found out later on.
No.
Yeah. I know about 5 kids.
I'm sorry. Really?
Doing the sideways shuffle.
Okay, so I remember our family was a big one that got called out for that. You guys were both there, and it was like 3 people on negative contracts helping to make that happen. I just assumed that all of those big lynch mob sex
I remember
topics
one person
were all
who
fabricated.
actually did get caught. I don't know if they were having sex. I thought they were just making out. But I remember 2 people getting caught from our family who were I'm not gonna, I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. Their names don't matter. I thought it was just making out. I thought it was I thought it was
just making out on work sanction in the hallway, or the kitchen.
Yep.
They were in the kitchen. Yeah. Which their relationship went on for years after the school, so like good for them. Whatever.
They had a real relationship.
It was. Yeah, they had a real I don't know if it was in love, but they were very good friends. And when you have a relationship with someone in this program where they're not trying to like nail you to a cross, and maybe they have your back, and maybe they keep negative contracts.
No, I agree.
Like that's.
I mean, I had that myself when I left. So. Yeah.
I didn't
do very well because
shacked up with each other.
Wow. Yeah.
Mine didn't do very well because staff found out about it after I left, and they did everything to destroy my reputation to this person. So, and it worked. So.
Well, what's interesting about that is they don't seem to have a problem with their incestual relationships when it's them. Like in Eastridge, right. Prior to the family school, I mean, most of those couples met at Eastridge. And then we even had situations where some of them were like having kids with each other's children.
I just know who you're talking about too.
They got over that.
Yes.
You know who I'm talking about. And he is Mr. Number One culprit of "you're a little whore" when he's talking to a 15 to 17-year-old girl which is his
Wait, who are we
DNA
talking about?
confirmed preference of age range. We're talking about one of your favorite intellectuals and called you up because, you know, all the time.
Really?
Miss, you know,
Ew!
so.
Oh, that's right. You told me about this.
Knocked up a 15-year-old.
Exactly.
Yeah, so when he's calling us whores and no one will ever let Bob, you know, there was a part of me when he would say that to me, like there was a part of me that felt like he skeeved me out a little on that level. But then there was an also to the element of how this shit works element where I really did to a certain extent want his approval because he was an intellectual and he played me as another intellectual that wasn't matching up, you know, and I figured he saw something in me. It was really, that's one of those creepy elements, you know? And I was totally like, there was a part of me was like, I bet if like I offered to fuck him or suck his dick, he'd let me, and maybe he'd help me get off campus and escape. Like that was a mind process that I had in my first few months of school. Turned out 15 years later, I find out it's true, y'all. I could have gotten out way earlier if I'd let him knock me up. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I feel like he was one of those like really.
He did it before he was staff there.
Like.
Yep.
That's why he came to the family school. Was Eastridge kicked him out because of that? Because the girl he knocked up was the owner's daughter, teenage daughter. I know he was like 30-something when he knocked the 15-year-old up.
He should have been like arrested.
You know, and that's the guy who was calling all these chicks out.
I'm just like
no shit, you guys. Like, what is up? What is up?
Miranda's been woke for so many years, and I'm just like, and I'm like, he should have been arrested.
No, not so many. No, New York Times cover, baby. Well, I don't understand why they haven't been. So, okay, I don't know if you know this, everybody, but there's 4 open sex assault charges against the family school right now. Did you know?
I don't know if I should say her name, but I've been in contact with her. She's one of the architects of this movement. We don't have to name her. It doesn't matter.
We don't have to name her as like what she's doing with the project, but what she's talking about is there's a psychiatrist that is devoted to this. That's also a survivor of the family school that got the New York Times. Liz Ionelli, she's amazing. So she definitely looped us into this like a year ago and let us know that they're moving mountains.
I've talked to her.
Wow.
Yeah, she still consults with the FBI.
Works for the FBI.
All municipal departments, all these people. I've talked to her at length about it, and it's incredible. And yeah, she is has her own.
It's amazing.
Pending, I believe.
She looped a bunch of survivors into taking advantage of this 1-year statute of limitations lift, but it was only lifted for sexual abuse. And so that's what, you know, so that's really, I don't think that's fair at all to put that burden of proof on those people who were so like viciously abused as children.
But right.
Yeah, but that kind of trauma, especially if they haven't talked about, I'm not saying one trauma is more than another, and I think that's something we should lay out because people do compare, and I think that's just really absolute crap. Like, I don't care.
Using children, this is really I don't think they really had a thought about TTI industry and everything. Right. I think but we took advantage. Yeah, absolutely.
No, but we took advantage, right? Like you got to take the opportunities you get. We don't get many. Yep. So House Brother, they've named Paul Greer on it, Paul Greer, and some guys that were there before we were there because there's cases from the 90s and our time.
You spent time in our family. You were there for a very long time. Tell us about you switched families to Paul Greer's family, if I'm not mistaken. So let's chat about that. Like,
please.
You went from one
because we never had to experience his family. Thank God.
And from one bad sponsor to another because I was his sponsee. So I went from one house leader or one family leader to another.
Oh my God.
I just remember hearing about it and the idea and like the main idea behind it was it'll be a fresh start. And I just remember going up to him because at this point I had been in a couple musical pit bands and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I'm getting to know him as a person and like as a leader. I was like, so I hear I'm gonna be in your family. He goes, yep, you're gonna be right underneath my wing. And I just remember him going, like reaching around my shoulder and like pulling me in, and I was like, oh, okay, like, so this is what's gonna be like. And from the start, they wanted me to, take on like senior roles and stuff like that, and be a senior member, and like hopefully like an anchor. And they pushed and they pushed, and like I wasn't having it. I didn't want it. So I wasn't sucking up, and like that's been my thing from the start. I never sucked up, and I never really took the vitamins, and I never really drank the tea because I didn't care. I mean, they made fun of me at those joke table topics constantly about how I was stealing stuff and how I had such a negative attitude and everything. And which, by the way, those joke table topics were just another way for them to release any resentment that students had towards you as a human being.
Well, I also wanted to talk to you about this because, oh my God, I think both me and you suffered from this the most. Like the direct survivor to survivor, or I don't know, do we call ourselves that when we're there? The direct student to student abuse, like, was insane.
Yeah.
Like, there are people that are fellow survivors that I just can't associate with or think about because of just the way they tortured me. I had someone friend me on Facebook a few weeks ago who was who tortured me in my first. Neither of you were there for her. She left within my first year. I don't know if I want to say her name. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. But but like I remember being like,
don't,
no,
especially if it's not a positive.
About your life. I don't want to know anything about you as a person now. Maybe you're doing great things. I don't want to know because it's just too traumatic for me. I was actually kind of shocked she friended me on Facebook because when I had left the family school, I was like, I want to be friends with all of you. Please accept me, be my friend. And like sometimes I was friends with them, but some of it was like, some of it was kind of sick. Some of it was like, I went back to the family school with these people, and like, some of it was like not really a normal relationship, because I think regardless, doesn't matter. But yeah, like I want to hear from you about your experience with like these other students who are supposed to like be, I don't know, they weren't supposed to be our torturers.
I remember,
I feel like, but they were.
one day in very, very clear detail. It was like a Friday or Saturday night. The students had asked, hey, can we do joke table topics? Just skits. And the staff member was like, no,
that was a big thing.
And for anyone listening, skits was just like, let's let off some steam. Let's joke around and make fun of each other, but in a lighthearted way. But really deep down, it was like a roast. So, but at the end, they didn't really say anything nice about you. They just let it go with the laughs. So the staff member said, no, we have some serious topics to discuss. Mad about this. So then they were like, okay. And then the anchors, the senior of the senior members, all got together and confided in themselves, and they said, you know what, we're gonna still do one anyway. We'll bring up me. So they brought me up, and it was known amongst them that it was a joke, but it wasn't known to staff. So they started saying some really personal stuff, and I started taking inventory, and I started being like, well, I mean, this is all I can say. Like, I can only take responsibility for this. And then it started getting,
oh my God, yeah, I think I remember this,
to the point where I broke down, and then they started laughing, and then the staff member was like, what's going on? And then then it all came out, and they're like, all right, you're out of the corner. All these anchors, all these senior members are going in the corner. And then the one, I'm not going to name him, but this kid has continued to be this much of a slime ball since leaving. He I think I know who you're talking about. He went into the corner, took the phone, and called up Mike.
There's like 5 it
to
could
save
be
his ass.
Yes, I remember this. I think.
Yep.
Yo.
So.
It's like.
Yeah. So they Mike came
I do
into
too, I
the
think.
family, and he tried to calm everybody down. And I mean, I pretty much called them out on it, like right then and there. I was like, "This is why no one likes you. This is why no one trusts you guys. This is why no one wants to be your friend." And I said that to the senior members, and like
My
I
God,
called
good
them
for
out on it,
you.
and then they let me pick the movie for the night as compensation
Yep.
for my issue.
Wow.
So sorry we traumatized you.
Exactly.
Which
Yeah, we watched a
PG
lot of
Disney
Grease.
movie that
Yeah.
you hate the most
Which
do you
isn't
want to
even,
watch tonight?
it wasn't even that's not even really PG. Well, maybe it is.
I
don't
remember
know.
that. I don't know, but I remember you going through stages. I remember when you first showed up feeling so horrified well, initially being thrilled that there was someone newer than me. That was initially. But then you also there was that scared, I remember being totally shocked, and to see someone younger than myself in that position and the first new person, I think, since me, that was crazy. And then I remember this part where you were really trying to like work the program as much as possible, and it did not matter what you did right. It was just a constant back into the corner, a constant public humiliation kind of experience. And then I remember this night with where you just got so frustrated, and it just
Yeah.
reminded me of myself
I
with
got
my whole little, like when I was
like in the
12-year-old
beginning, I really
ADHD
didn't
kid,
want
and I was
to.
like,
I
oh my
wanted
God,
to
I
see
feel that like tantrum.
wanted
Like,
like
are you
still be
fucking
me,
serious?
and like I saw like everybody else. I was like, I'll never be on work sanction. I'll be a good kid. And lo and behold, within my first 3 months, I was on work sanction. I remember saying to myself, "Oh, I'll never be one of those kids, and I'll do what's right." And no matter what I did, I just couldn't do what was right. So then I started giving up, and I was just like, "All right, I'll stay on work sanction." I was on work sanction, I think, for 3 months at one point in the winter. I was always never smart enough to never get on work sanction in the summer. I always got it in the winter. Yeah, we were.
Yeah,
And
I'm pretty sure we were on work sanction
I mean,
together
and then I
at some
did
point.
try, and no matter what,
Yeah.
it just never worked. Like you said, like I couldn't win, and like it's really defeats and like kills you inside, and that was their whole point. That was their whole mission
Yeah.
to kill you on the inside. So
Well, but there were so many people that like lied
Right.
their way through, and
Right.
afterwards.
Yeah, but they still pull the rug out from under them. Because so remember, my junior sponsor, not going to name her, but you guys remember the play,
Yes.
obviously. Remember when they put her in the corner and on poverty and all that jazz to manipulate her, and they were like, Miranda, you were her understudy, so you're going to do the role. And I was straight up like, fuck you guys, you are not using me to like break her ass. I'm going to straight up refuse to do it. So you can cancel your play, or you can pull her out of the corner.
I remember that.
Like, that's what's up. Like, we're not doing this. Like, this was only a couple months from yeah. And so they pulled her out of the corner and they let her do the play because it was more important that they have that play for the parents and that show of face with that than them be able to manipulate her again. But it worked. She broke. Like, I remember her. That was horrible because she's my junior sponsor also. So it's not just some other girl I'm understudying. It's like my fucking junior sponsor. And she's graduating soon.
So
but
creepy.
now we're going to play games and you're going to use me again?
Yeah.
No. Fuck that. I never learned the lines to that. House brother, how long were you in the corner though? Because I feel like you were in the corner like at least half of my time, if not most of the time that we shared
corner,
like
on standing or just in the corner in general or on exile, it was
constantly,
very
right?
rare
Yeah.
for me to be out and about. God, I'd say I was in there for, if not a half, then like 5/8 of my stay there. Like it was a decent portion of time that I spent in the corner.
Yeah, I feel like you were in the corner more than you were out.
So
yeah, 100%.
Right. Yeah. But you kept trying. So what was the motivation initially was trying to work the program? Because you're coming into this situation and everybody's drank the juice, like you said, and they're taking the vitamins.
Oh, to leave.
And you're the noob. So now you got to figure out what you're doing.
Interaction I had
What was
with
your
my
initial
mother
motivation with trying to work the
was
program?
at that, what was it? The initial
Just to get
seminar
out.
or the family or the parent seminar? Like the first one where like the parents come after 90 days of not seeing their kids.
Yeah, after 30 days, your first 30 days, you get like, well,
It's
Miranda, you didn't get, it's 30.
It's 90, yeah. So like you had
It
no.
was
Is it 30 or
for me.
90?
No, it was 90 for me, but
It's
again,
90. Well, it's different for everybody, you guys, because my parents didn't come until March because Tom had already died. So they were there in March, and I got there in September.
My dad didn't come till later.
That's my first contact.
If your parents couldn't come, but my mom came. I remember because it was on my birthday because I got sent there September 4th, and my birthday's October 2nd.
Well, yeah.
So they came like around my birthday, and I remember like, oh, that was But
yeah. So I
yeah.
I remember seeing my mother, and I
feel
walk
you.
up to her, and
Okay,
I'm like,
so
"Mom, please, just
yours
take me
was
home."
30
And
days in.
she pulls me into a hug, and she whispers in my ear, "Not without a diploma." And like at that point, I was just like, I knew it was going to be a long, long ride because I came in when I was a freshman in high school, so I was expecting 4 years. Yeah.
Ooh.
I didn't even get a diploma.
Oh my God.
No. They transferred my credits back to my home school, and
you didn't even get a diploma at the end of this?
And house brother, how long were you there for? Like, what's the total time?
49 months and
Do you want?
I think 13 days.
Shit, you have it down to like the
December
wow.
8th is when I left. December 8th, 2007.
Fuck.
No diploma.
And no diploma, nothing to show for it, really.
Yeah. No diploma.
No.
And
when I came
but
out,
I'm sure you were super well prepared for the world, though, after 5 years in a therapeutic boarding school.
What they were. Super freaked out.
Yeah, because you didn't really. We didn't really have access to like these kinds of things. Because like I came out and I remember being like, you didn't know what the latest movie was. You didn't know what. You just like culture just ceased to exist. Anyways. Totally. It was totally like a blackout. Like you went into
I feel like we had a detour from life.
5 years, and then came out and you were like, oh, world.
Yeah.
Hi.
I remember finding out about iPods, iPhones, how much cell phones had changed. The fact that they could say, I mean, the B word on TV was amazing to me. So, yeah. Yeah. So, it was a major
right. They couldn't even say shit when we went in.
I went to a family school oriented sober dorm, which closed after the first year. So,
yeah,
Mike and Roxy Lasico ran it.
Was it affiliated with the family school
actually,
directly?
I don't know if you know about this. It was called. Are we allowed to say the name? I don't know why we're like.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was called the Benton House, and I actually, because since I graduated in
why not?
And I started at Marywood University in Scranton, right down the road from this place, I got to know the first few people that were the residents of the Benton House. A lot of people, even in my college, hung out there. And
let's explain first.
It was family school light.
They had a contest to name it, to figure out the name for it. And the name they came up with, Betty and Tony combined, so Benton.
Betty and Tony, yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yes,
oh my gosh, the narcissism never ceases to amaze me.
That was also in that area.
Beautiful.
And I remember them trying to give us their booze and everything so that they wouldn't fail their inspection, and we're like freaking out because we weren't allowed to obviously touch this stuff. So
yeah, there was only like 3 people that were there when I first got there, but and I got them into some trouble because was not prepared for the life that. And then like they kind of used me. They were like, "You can sign us out, and like we'll go to parties," and it was just kind of crazy. But yeah, like that was kind of weird.
Wasn't a fan of it.
That was a weird time.
No.
What were the relationships? So was it only kids from the family school that were going to Benton House?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
where were
that was
but where were the other
on.
ones coming from?
One girl's mom
yeah.
or parents sent her there, and they were like Hasidic Jews. So like they were like,
wow.
Like when they came to visit on the weekend, they would have to take the stairs, and like we'd have to leave lights on and stuff for them. And I felt bad for her because this was a culture shock for her, being able to live in like this kind of environment. So, but yeah, so my choices were to either join the military or go to Benton House, and I wasn't. I had no idea whether or not Benton House would even accept me because I didn't graduate. That was one of their sticking points. I needed to graduate in order to be accepted. So. Yeah.
But after 5 years, and if the same people are making money on you when you was there a charge for Benton House?
I think
was it as exorbitant as the family school?
It was an insane amount, but I mean, not know where I was going up until the day before I left. Like that was just another one of their mind game power trips. So.
Yeah, and that was with everyone. I'm really, other than people who were graduating at a specific time, I don't think people knew what was going to happen, even those on their birthdays, because on my birthday, Sid had this whole thing planned with me. And so I think that's kind of what they did as like an exit interview with everyone, is kind of when you figured out what was going on. And when Meredith and I talked with Rose from the timeout room, she's from Cross Creek, which is WASP's first and last program. They actually had an exit plan, which was printed out like a contract that they knew ahead of time and signed.
And listening to that,
but we didn't have any of that.
Heck, I would have taken $50 easily. Yeah.
Look, $50 in a bus ticket?
7
down.
Miles.
Well, because I feel like for us, if you were walking, you expected to take a 7 mile. Was it 7 miles to town? Wasn't that what we were? Right.
I remember.
So, because that's what I thought I was doing on my birthday breakfast, chapel and breakfast. I was super high on hormones. But yeah, I thought I was going to have to walk
did that 3 times.
7 miles to a payphone.
And I came back. Yeah,
but I didn't know that was going to happen.
So
you walked 3 times.
The one time I walked.
Did you walk back or did you like call that? And like, was it the same day or did you like do stuff for a week?
By it's actually right by Joe and Tina's house.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they do.
They probably own it then. They own the whole damn town. That whole
house. I remember when they were building
Joe and Tina. I'm okay with Joe and Tina.
They literally built it.
She was my sponsor.
Okay, I'm not, but no.
Yeah.
Good. Me too. You're not a fan. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, again, different experiences with different people.
Duh. Yeah, but like I don't know, she would be. So
but then what's wrong with that, Meredith? That's true. Like,
but I always thought we were like soul sisters because we were both fat, and I was like, "You're fat, I'm fat. Let's be soul sisters."
Yeah.
Maybe that's
why. Maybe that's why she didn't like you, Meredith. Sometimes that's a
going
thing.
To the back end because I had scoped it out like the week before for a water source, and I was like, I can get some water from here. They had closed it down that week.
Oh my!
So the water was empty. And then the payphone in town was disconnected.
Of course.
I remember walking around asking people for help, and like no one would offer help. Like they all thought we were axe murderers until we started printing our own Until we started printing our own newspaper and like distributing it locally, they thought we were all murderers.
Oh,
and,
sure.
like, the scum of the earth and like Silent Hill type people.
Oh my God. Yeah,
so
I can
started
see.
walking back.
Yeah.
And because I was terrified of bears, because it's in the middle of nowhere, I was screaming church hymns at the top of my lungs running back. And yeah, it was awful.
Oh my God.
Someone picked me up. I can't remember if it was Sid or Bob who picked me up, but somebody picked me up.
1 minute 16.
Second time I left, I made about halfway before I was like, screw this, I can't do this anymore. And I decided to turn around. And then the third time, like I lost even more steam and I made it down to the road. And I was like, man, I remember how long this is. Screw this, I'm not going. So I just walked back, but I hung out like out way past the chapel. Like I just hung out in the woods for like most of the day and I just relaxed. And then I came back on my own. So.
Wow.
Yeah, no. I never ran away because.
And these are all times where you were legally walking as an 18-year-old and not running away, right?
Well, we used to do search and rescue training there for the dogs. And. Yeah,
oh, and this is
and
where.
I remember there was a time where we did a night training drill, which we never did after this because a bunch of coyotes treed me. So that never happened again. Yeah.
They.
Yeah. So
they treat. Oh my God!
The dogs that
they treat him.
Coyotes.
They got him to go up a tree in fear.
So. Oh no! Like coyote, like wolves.
Oh fucking.
Yeah, the ones that don't listen to you with your magical German calls or whatever.
Right.
You
no,
did.
it's all right. They yeah, I remember.
I hear you. No, I know. I was
2 miles,
I was making
like,
funny.
hey,
I was trying.
and
but
gave in my location about where I was, and then I was like, "How many dogs did you guys send out?" Because there's a bunch around me right now, and they're like, "We didn't send anything out yet." So I climbed the tree as fast as I could, and then they got to me on their quads or emergency vehicles or whatever. Yeah. So.
Oh fuck.
So they started a canine.
So you bring up the dogs
because like students and staff.
What is that like?
Would train search and rescue dogs
for people who don't know.
That would be used for the community outside of the school for hunting and stuff because the school was located in like prime hunting area around Hancock. But you also had kids who ran away, and there were kids who ran away and broke into houses. And I'm pretty sure you guys remember the one kid who broke into a house and was stabbed. Yeah. Yeah.
Real?
Yeah.
Wait, yeah, maybe.
He was
I remember
stabbed in the chest and the head, and survived.
That's right. Oh my
God.
God.
I do.
Yeah.
So then
oh my God! But
they implemented this training program where they would. It was under the impression that it would help find students so that state police didn't have to worry about it, and in case these students were on medications like diabetes or anything, they would be able to get to them sooner. But the dogs were trained on how to tackle down students too if they were found and continue to run. And Rita Argyros. So
and they were trained
kids,
by.
Like I trained a couple. I trained one dog in particular, two actually.
Yeah, but like, who did the manpower? Like, were kids training the dogs? Were you training them? 2
other students took her out for a walk, and they put her back in the truck and closed all the windows, and she died of heat stroke. Yeah, I spent like a year.
I think I remember that.
And like I had just gotten my wisdom teeth out, so I had no idea what was going on. And then Rita pulled me aside, and she's like, "Come here," and like I had to kneel down to get to her level because she was so short. And she told me what was happening, and she just gave me a hug. That's all I can remember from that. Because I was in, yeah. Well, I was also in so much pain because they didn't give you any painkillers. I was on ibuprofen. I just got 4 wisdom teeth.
The animal stuff from the school's horrific.
So, right, because
you're a drug addict,
but
so
I never
have ibuprofen.
None.
Right, because you're a drug addict.
And I had a sip of Molson. And I hated
how many drugs did you do before the school?
So that's all. Yep.
0.
Yep. So
This intermission of Troubled is brought to you by Activism. So Meredith is a super activist, and Troubled, obviously, we're not going to get political in the element of endorsements with the presidential election and jazz going on. And Meredith and I don't have the same political or religious or anything opinions. That's totally not necessary for our relationship or our advocacy together. But so she is out there rocking the campaign trail for Bernie Sanders. And so this second part of the podcast is just our house brother and myself. And hey, surprise, guys, there's no tech glitches in this one. So enjoy.
I just want to say I'm sorry about Tom.
I'm sorry about Tom.
I think a lot of us are. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're okay with me keeping that in there, I will.
No, I'm fine with it. I think people need to know the truth about it, and that we weren't given the help that we needed, and we were never able to process it.
There's that, and then there's also this whole element where they list Tom's death as happening after the school. You know, there's lists of if kids died at the school, if it was suicide, if it was from restraint, if it was from, like all of it. There's thousands of kids out there that died in the programs, and Tom is on the suicide after the program list.
Oh no.
He is, yeah, totally.
How do you fix that?
Yeah, so I contacted the websites that host it. I don't even know if they're still active. The Family Foundation School Truth Campaign just made that announcement. I think, I literally think it was New Year's. I think it was when we decided to do the podcast. And then they said that they were ending the campaign. They're closing it down. So I think a lot of these sites are, but I have contacted them. But also, even if you look at the news stuff on Tom or the family school jazz, it says it's a die after because he was pronounced dead off-site.
Yeah, because they couldn't. I mean, I guess I feel like in some sort of way that they manipulated the paramedics to pronounce him.
Or
off-site.
Can they not pronounce him dead until they arrive at the hospital and they kept giving him compressions?
No, because I don't know if you remember I don't know what you saw, but from what I saw, there was no way that they had any idea that they could save this poor soul.
What I saw was just that come out of Angelo. It was the first time I considered him a human being. And from what I saw, there was certainly no way he was going to survive. But also when I got ushered out, he was still alive when I left. So I have no idea if he suffered until that flight got there or suffered on the flight. I don't know.
When I got ushered out, I remember them putting a cloth over him.
Oh, I don't remember that at all. Okay.
So.
But you got ushered out. So this is what's so interesting about these memories, because I don't remember the cloth, but I would assume that you almost even got ushered out quicker than I did, So I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everything was in slow motion, but I also I remember seeing him draped with something. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. The fact that everyone I've spoken with from every program has a Tom is really scary.
Yeah, no, it is. Speaking of the Family Foundation School Truth Campaign, my testimonial got taken off because it was they actually deleted my testimonial because back then I was still in touch with Mike Argyros and he was like, "Hey, can you say something nice about how it was good for you?" So they deleted my testimony.
So wait. So the testimony that you submitted to the Truth Campaign was a positive testimony?
Was, because back then I was still at Benton House, or I had just left Benton House, so I still had a positive idea of the school. I didn't understand everything that had happened to me up to that point. I was still living under the shadow.
Well, Meredith had a similar experience, rather, where she had a positive relationship after leaving the school for a few years. And it took her. At what point did your perception of your experience there change?
Well, once I started talking to other people about it, I was like, yeah, like in a joking around way, like, yeah, I was forced to dress up in a suit and carry a briefcase because I was too childish. And they're like, dude, like it's really repressive. And I was like, oh, and like starting to really understand like a lot of the stuff that had happened to us was really repressive, really abusive. Um, I had a friend who had tried to come to the school several times and was ushered away. Like she tried to come and rescue me. And she
Oh my
she
God.
was ushered away every time. And it wasn't until like I was out and I was talking to her. She actually sent me several dozen books on PTSD and um, compartmentalizing and how your brain pretty much tries to save itself from its own trauma. Um,
Hmm.
and she was like the biggest advocate for me to like open my eyes and see like, wow, like there was some really bad stuff. Um,
So this is one person though that like kept trying to reach out to you while you were in the program, and then after the program reached out to you on the same kind of like helping healing
yeah,
level.
like she was the first person I reached out to when I left the school. And
Are you still in contact with her?
no, she passed away.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. Thank you. She overdosed. Um,
Mm. So she understood
yeah, no, she
what you were dealing
she she was a very big advocate for me to um try and process this. And like she saw like basically the cry for help and like me like the dark sense of humor and everything. She saw past it. So
with. Well, that's an interesting kind of archetype that we have in our like trauma survivor. I'm sure she's a trauma survivor world where so many of the people who advocate the most for us and help us the most often are the ones that also succumb to the darkness at the end of the day.
yeah,
Like with John Martin Crawford from our
yeah,
school, you know, I mean, we wouldn't be having this conversation about this, any of this, like even nationally, if it weren't for him. If they hadn't gotten this to Congress and everything that they did, I mean, the school would still be open, I think.
I think so too. I mean, because it was only shut down 5 years ago, and that was because
Yeah,
numbers were low because the truth had come out. But if the truth had
right.
not come out, I mean, I definitely feel like it would still be open today.
Well, and they attempted to make another program that was specifically targeted towards LGBTQ youth in, I think, South Carolina. And I forget which state. It was not New York. I think it was North or South Carolina, and they weren't able to get that going. But Reddit showed me some interesting news articles about them, like trying to get the land, and a similar thing as to what happened with Freedom Village, which was also out of New York.
Jesus, like this is family school staff.
This is Mike Argyros, and I think it was Robin Ducey.
Oh,
I'm
I
pretty
got
sure.
Robin mixed up with her daughter, and I was about to say no way it was.
Her adorable blonde chemistry teaching
Yeah,
daughter.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got into a lot because she was in Family Six. I got into a lot of trouble because she pulled out a piece of paper from her purse and she goes, I don't know what this is, and I have no idea what enticed me to say this, but I said must be the number from the guy last night, and I got into so much trouble. Oh,
But that's being a teenager's about, it's about sticking your foot in
yeah.
it. You know,
Oh God.
how many of our really important experiences and memories are like that? But then when you put yourself in this kind of environment where it's already twisted from like it's
Yeah. Oh
set
God,
up.
it was awful. God, I got like instant corner, no table topic, nothing, just right to the corner. I was like, oh shit.
Well, how many guys do you think were in the corner over coming up on inappropriate thoughts
Oh
for
yeah,
her? She was beautiful,
yeah,
and she was the only beautiful young person they were able to have direct contact with, like on
yeah.
that
That
level.
wasn't that
As a
wasn't deemed inappropriate. So
Right, totally, they could have a private conversation, they could smile at her, they couldn't do that with anybody
nope.
else. And especially Meredith and your ages going in, you went in as a freshman, so like your whole high school experience is
Yeah,
this.
I had literally the week before I had just gotten my first kiss. Like that was how inexperienced.
You're like, you
Yeah,
got
I got it because of the
it,
boarding school. So
Oh, because she knew you were going?
So.
Oh, farewell.
So, but no, let's talk about the dogs and stuff. Like the I remember training the German Shepherd Ripley, who fostered more puppies and like pretty much started their whole search and rescue program. Um, and in hindsight, it's terrifying that I helped train these dogs to tackle students as they ran away.
When doing the search parties, did you guys go out on the search parties with them, or did just the adults go with the
adults. We
dogs?
did the training. So like I I worked with two puppies and taught them how to swim in the pond in like October, which was freezing cold. I remember wading out with them and teaching them how to pretty much doggy paddle and swim properly. Um, we used baby food for enticement and treats and stuff. Um, but we also would have guests who would come and train their dogs with us, and we weren't allowed to talk about anything with them. We weren't allowed to like do anything. I think they were only at like Mike and Cindy and Rita's houses, so like they never saw what was going on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I feel horrible that I taught those animals how to uh, essentially bite and grab a hold of students' legs and arms as they ran away, because that's what they were trained to do. If a kid wouldn't sit still, the dog was trained how to safely and humanely tackle them and hold them down.
Well, on the note of like personal responsibility, I am glad that it was you that was training these dogs because they were humanely and safely taught to not
Yeah.
brutalize children. And I do know that there at least half of our other house brothers, if they were the guy doing that, that would
No,
not be the case.
no. There's students who still now victimize other students and use their histories and their experiences and their um, mess ups to do everything that they can to ruin their lives with. So it's
Well, and that's why you're anonymous because we have to worry in the survivor community about survivor bullying and doxing and all of these
exactly.
things.
So um,
It's a breeding narcissist. Did you know that Trump is technically also a fellow survivor, that he went through the New York Military Academy?
I don't want to talk about Trump because it's going to get really ugly really fast. I'm not a supporter,
Okay,
but I do not want to discuss this awful man who is visiting. So
okay, so what he represents, though, are our fellow survivors that are extreme narcissists who, instead of, we are, both of us are supportive of other survivors, and we're kind of trying to walk this together and heal and do this safely for ourselves and others. But there are others that this kind of breeding ground created amazingly psychopathic narcissists. And to this day, some of these people continue to bully each other and use these tactics they were
oh, and
taught to like
they've
throw their
gone on
authority
to
around.
become professionals in a way in this area because they've honed their skills and they've added the knowledge of how to not only mentally but physically hurt people, and it's terrifying to see that.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's yeah, that's so crazy. I don't understand. I'm not sure what chooses which side of the aisle you're on. But I'm not sure it's like always a black and white line either. Because I see some people who, I care about treat others that I also care about like, they're just regressing into
right,
these patterns.
I've seen it too. So I mean, I don't think it's cut and dry or black and white. I think it's all with how you see yourself. Do you see yourself as a victim who
Mm.
needs to protect themselves and to show that they can protect themselves, or do you see yourself as a victim who understands that you're a victim and that there are other victims and you're willing to help them with your story?
Yeah. And if you see yourself as the latter, then
Right.
you're a survivor.
But if you see yourself as only someone who needs to prove to others that you're strong and that you can put down anybody else, then you're no different than the people who hurt you. The only difference is that you went through it.
Yeah. Well, and it's unfortunate when the power is shifted, when they take that opportunity to embody their own abusers. But then there's also this part of me that almost feels, I don't know if it's sympathetic, but I feel something for them because I feel like they're stuck more in something they can't understand or see. I feel like I'm scared for us. Like there's some of us we're on suicide watch with each other sometimes, and I worry about the survivor community. But also, we do have the chance to heal, though. We have the chance to work on this and advocate for ourselves and move forward. And
Right,
those
because
guys
they
don't.
won't see that they need to move forward. They only see that they're they think that they're in an okay place.
Right.
So
Yeah. But we all learn to take inventory at the same table, and there is something that we can take from that, as long as we're not shaming ourselves and doing all
right.
this crazy sick shit.
So
Yeah. Well, hopefully we
yeah.
can move forward.
I mean, I think I've done a pretty good job moving forward. I don't think I've really allowed myself to sit in it. I understand that what happened to me, and that I can't allow myself to sit and wallow in it. But I also need to acknowledge it as a turning point in my life. So
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and this is something like, what is your relationship with your experience with this at this point in the
so
game?
my experience now, as opposed to when I first left. When I first left was okay. I went through some stuff, and I'm going to use everything I learned, and I'm going to be just like Meredith said, where she was like, "I'm going to be the good Christian girl." I was like, "I'm going to teach my family the Serenity Prayer, and I'm going to do everything right, and I'm going to only follow the principles of AA, and I'm going to go to meetings every day." And then I was like, "This isn't me. This stuff doesn't apply to me. Why am I doing this?" So now I've I've taken what I can and I've applied what I can to my personal life. But if it doesn't really apply to me, I don't really let it stay in my person anymore. So like I've
Hmm.
learned some great anger coping skills. I've learned ways to de-stress, and I've learned ways to cope better. But I mean, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be like, oh, I can never go anywhere near this place because this is only drug related or anything. I've taken what applies only to me, and I've gone on with it because
Yeah.
there's no point in me holding on to stuff from AA that doesn't apply to me. Like I don't have a problem drinking. I don't have a problem with drugs. I don't have a problem with that kind of stuff. So I don't really apply that those principles to my life.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to like pick out the bones
Exactly.
and keep what
Yeah.
fits with everything.
So like for me personally, I like I said, I never touched drugs or alcohol. So for me, it was more of an anger issue. So what do I work on? I work on my anger. And essentially, that's what AA and every other anonymous group, what it stems from. It says alcohol and drugs are but a symptom of
Right.
our deeper issues. And if you can't address the deeper issues, then you're not going to recover, and you're not going to be free of those issues. So
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. You're so
thanks.
mature.
But I mean, it's something
It's
that you
such
get
it.
into. Like I've gotten to like arguments over this with people in AA. They're like, "Yeah, but alcohol is what my problem is," and it's like, no, what's the alcohol covering? Your abandonment issues or your anger issues with your boss, or it's the feeling that you need to use this to cope with these issues. So why don't you address those issues? I
Mhm.
understand alcohol is a big issue or a big part of it. So while you're addressing that, but you still need to address the anger. You still need to address the hurt emotions that you're feeling.
Yeah, root causes. On the list of little positive things I learned from AA or Synanon or the family school, wherever that philosophy stemmed from, that root cause jazz is important. What I recently learned in therapy is bullshit, though, that I learned about because I was always telling her, like, I was taught anger is a secondary emotion. And so I thought anger was bullshit. I thought anger was like this fake response that we do when we're too much of a coward to look at our root suffering and deal with our own shit. We just act angry. Like, that's what I took from what we were taught. And my therapist is like, no, your anger is fucking real. Like, that's a real emotion too. Like, it can be tied to other emotions, and maybe it comes secondary to fear, but love and fear are the only roots anyways, ultimately.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm validating my anger. I'm like, what? I thought anger was always just me being like a selfish, ignorant, tantrumy bitch. Like, always was
No.
anger.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like anger is a major a major part of my life sometimes. Like, with what I'm going through recently, definitely feel like anger is a major upheaval, but it's the way I handle it. Whereas before I would smash things and destroy things. Now I sit back and I'm like, okay, so what can I take from this and what can I learn from this? Whereas there are people who are still, I need to smash and I need to destroy. So.
Yeah. I can't communicate my frustration with myself or others. And so this is what I know how to do. Bam, bam.
So.
Yeah. So I don't mean to always bring things back to animals, but I think, we both like support animal rescue jazz. Did you know about the pigs?
Yeah, I was there for the pigs. I hated the pigs.
Were you there when they allegedly put them on the trucks? Like the way they got rid of them?
See, I never saw that, but
okay.
I definitely knew that they were going somewhere local and that we were going to reap the benefits of it.
Okay. Because so I was told that they broke the pig's legs and kicked them onto the back of the truck, or threw them on the back of the truck.
Jesus Christ.
So that they wouldn't jump out of the trailer bed. And I didn't see that. I didn't
never experienced that myself.
No, I never experienced any of the cruelty to animals myself, thank God. But that was one of the stories I heard, and the reason I heard it was because one of the previously vegetarian, because obviously you're not a vegetarian at the school, was on some sort of mega sanction because she tantrumed out when this happened. And so I was told that by a couple girls in her family. And then I don't know that this even happened in our time, but in the 90s, I hear like multiple stories about them drowning the kittens or having kids kill the kittens because they weren't spaying the cats. Did you hear any of that while you were at the school? Was that kind of like rumor, fear used with you?
I remember hearing about dead kittens in the pond.
While you were at the school?
Yeah. Before.
Who told you that? Like a kid or like a staff member?
Kids.
Okay.
And you weren't there, but they added a second pool to the pond and a bridge going over it. And I remember them saying that if they dig deep enough, they'll find the kittens.
And was that still kids saying that, or did staff say that one?
I mean, from what I remember, it was mostly students who were saying this, but I'm sure a staff member said it at one point or another to reaffirm the whole rumor.
Right? Because and that's the thing is, like, I feel like we all, while none of those, like, I never saw that, whatever, everyone that was there at the time, this is a story that was used as, like, I don't know, some sort of like fear control thing.
No, definitely. Like, don't dig too deep around the pond kind of thing. So
yeah, but what the hell is that with adults? Even if it wasn't true, although Liz saw it firsthand, so I believe her, right?
Yeah.
But even if it wasn't true, the fact that it's reinforced by staff to use threats of violence against animals with kids, like, dude, what the fuck is that?
It's really dark and demented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 of us from Family 3 in my time, which is short enough alone, that are, active in animal rescue.
Oh, really? Who else?
Yeah. Terry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I
TikTok
actually
girl.
I need to reach out to her because yeah, things aren't going well for me up here.
Well, she's actually talking about moving down to Texas and building a shelter sanctuary thingy out here.
Yeah,
Because I'm hoping she's coming to visit soon so we can look at some of the prime land around where I am because we could do that
that
together.
would be amazing. That
Yeah,
really would.
hopefully. Wouldn't it be crazy if that's like the big, like the things that we could create and do and heal together being just kind of almost worth what we went through to get there?
Yeah, and it's crazy because I mean the three of us, like you said, we're family three.
Yeah.
So
And
um,
just in our time together, like how many I think there's a type. I think that the kind of kids, at least that were at the family school, were creative, empathetic, sensitive, and traumatized
yeah,
and misunderstood.
makes a really nice batch of animal rescue people.
Well, nobody came to save us, man.
No,
And none of us are licensed to save other children other than Liz. So we can save dogs. Like I can pick up a dog on the side of the road. I can't like save that kid who's being abused, but I can do this little thing.
right.
I
So
can't save myself, but here we go.
let's put all this focus and energy into this life that I could really potentially save.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
and rescue, it's like coping and distraction at the same time,
exactly
and it's awesome and rewarding in that it like builds you up, but it also sometimes can like almost like it's thrown me off the mental cliff a few times, and yet we're just drawn to the light, moths, survivors. So many of us are in rescue.
no. I definitely I definitely feel like what you said, like being empathetic and aware of the feelings and the emotions of others is a major reason why I do the rescue work that I do. Um, because I mean, just from my own personal experience of the adoption process and being kicked out of foster homes and then going and being adopted and being kicked out of that home and then going to the boarding school and being kicked out of there, like I don't want to see other animals suffer through that. I don't want to. I want to save what I can. To the point where I even want to down the road adopt a child of my own so that I give them the chance that they deserve. And
Yeah.
it's the only way I can think of it. Like no animal should be treated like this, and no human should be treated like this. And if I can do something to change that, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're awesome.
thank you.
No, thank you. We need more use. And I know that it's potentially dangerous for people dealing with trauma to get involved in things like rescue or volunteering in like at-risk communities, even with humans, but I think the risk is worth the reward, or the reward is worth the risk.
Yeah.
Maybe that was Freudian, but not that I respect him, but
I mean, yeah, I can understand where it's dangerous because you put so much of yourself and you invest so much of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally into these animals, and if they don't do well, like you, I mean, I'll be honest, I felt like a failure before because
oh yeah.
they didn't do well, or we weren't able to find a perfect home for this dog, so we ended up having to put her down after we worked with her for 3 years. It's it's devastating dealing with that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's personal. Yeah. I only have one dog ever that's still alive that was a hit by car. So all of my hit by cars are dead except for one. I saw him today because his some of his hardware needed to be replaced, but literally one. And so over the summer when I was at 100% death rate, I like legit was suicidal. That's when I made my ICU survivor video and got really sucked into survivor world because I don't have medical insurance and I needed some sort of mental health support. So it was you guys.
I mean, yeah, I've worked with dogs that definitely had awful experiences, and to see them come out of it in a positive way is amazing. But to see the ones that don't come out of it in a positive way is really opening to me because it reaffirms like I could be there. I could be just like this animal. I could be lashing out at everyone, and I could not trust anyone who gives me any kind of affection, and I could be cold and bitter and angry at the world too. But it's whether or not you choose to be open and receptive to the love and the compassion that you receive from others. And there's still going to be people who are mean and cruel to you, but it's looking past
Right.
that and understanding that there are good people, and not every person is there to kick you when you're down.
Right. And even those ones that are going to nip at your heels when you're already on the ground, like they're doing it, they're like that dog who's responding in
Right.
fear. Like that's where that comes
Right.
from. Doesn't mean you have to tolerate it or put up with it or put yourself in that situation,
No.
like, but it just, there's a little bit of compassion you can have that this animal or person, animal is suffering and they're afraid and they don't know how to deal
Yeah.
with this.
And then there are going to, I mean, it's also opening to understand that there are people who don't want to see you succeed. And there are people who do want to hurt you when you're down. And it's understand that you can move yourself away from these people, but these animals can't. So you're moving them away
Yeah.
for their own good.
Yeah, but as from the sort of the trauma, like the CPTSD stuff, for people like us who've been in an experience where everyone was out to get you and everyone was trying to hurt you and calling it love, like how do we switch from that? Like we can teach a dog to trust a certain kind of human, and we can teach a person maybe to accept but how do you get from that fear that the whole world will turn on you and that there's danger everywhere?
See, that's I can't answer that because I'm doing that right now with my job. Where I've been at my job for 4 years, and I feel like I'm being pushed out, not so silently, by a change in staff. And it's very hard for me to open and be trusting to the people that I work with. I mean, I probably work with 20 something people, and I can only trust 2 or 3 at the moment. And it's terrifying because it's like
Yeah, it's terrifying.
I
And that affects your regular life. That doesn't stay at
no.
work.
So, and again, it's compartmentalizing and understanding that I need to separate this from my outside life and my home life. And yeah, there's going to be times where it oozes into the other, and sometimes I don't see it and I don't understand it. But there are other times where I can see it and I can try and stop it, or I can talk about it. And that's the biggest thing. Like that's what we all need. We need just to be able to communicate. Another thing that dogs can't do, they can't communicate their hurt, they can't communicate their pain, but we
Right.
can. It's just whether or not we're willing to.
We can now. I think that there's a good correlation between, dogs can't communicate that and children can't communicate that.
Right.
So I mean, like how, I don't know how we could have then, speaking of back then, highs and lows, like what were some highs and what were some lows of this experience for you?
Of the family school.
The family school. Yeah.
I think my high was being accepted into a college, because I never thought I would be accepted into a college. My low was being told by Paul Gear that I might be constitutionally incapable of being honest with myself. That was the lowest point I'd ever been.
Oh my God, did you ever believe him?
I did, for a long time. And
that's incredibly dangerous.
And another student, Nick, signed my my going away book. Like if you were graduating, I'm sure you remember. I don't know if you would have been there for one graduation at least. So you know how everyone was going around with those notepads, and it's like sign something nice and give me something to communicate you with. And this student Nick, who I barely spoke to, who was there because Paul said this in front of an entire chorus group, wrote, "I don't think you're constitutionally incapable. I just think you're not seeing the whole picture." And looking back on that later and talking to this kid later, and I was like, wow, dude, you have no idea how powerful that is to hear from another student, like to hear from like the mentor, like the person that I was looking up to and going to for guidance, being told that like I'm constitutionally incapable of being honest and that I'm probably gonna die because of my dishonesties and stuff. It's a really, really disheartening thing. But to hear like from another student, like, I have faith in you, especially someone who I never spoke to. It's a really powerful thing.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, so the never speaking and having relationships with these other people, it that still blows my mind.
Yeah, like just like this kid trying to help me when, I mean, he put himself at risk by writing that. Because if Paul got a hold of that,
Yeah.
the kid would have been done for. He was one of Paul's stars in the chorus. It would have been over for him.
Yeah. Yeah, thrown in isolation, there for another 18 months. He was there for a really long time too. His parents seem to just kind of send him off there for
I
goodsies.
think I don't know if you and I are talking about the same kid, but I
Yeah,
yeah
maybe not. I'm assuming I remember whose parents were super wealthy,
yeah
and he was kind of like socially special a little bit from my experience with him, which was very limited.
okay yeah
That's the one
I
I'm thinking of. I was on blackout with him completely the whole
oh
time.
yeah yep yeah yep
So just another major player who would definitely get a role in the narrative fictional film, but that I've never spoken a word
yeah
to. Like,
yeah I mean there were some kids that I never had any interaction with, and I'm honestly fucking glad that I didn't, because I feel like if I did, like, I just would have been far off worse, because
oh yeah, I put myself on blackout with boys.
yeah
Fuck that.
there are just some kids who instantly right away you knew, like, not to even try and interact with.
For sure. Which is why I tried to like be around people I thought were safe, but we weren't always right about that
No.
either.
Just mind-boggling, the experiences that we all shared and had just different viewpoints and ideas about it, but we all went through it at the same time.
It's fascinating. That's how, I mean, every person's reality is their own. There is an absolute truth for sure, but none of us know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because not everyone in the world shared these experiences with us, though, what are some main things that you want to make sure you've made clear, so people are aware that people should be aware of about these programs or the family school specifically?
Honestly, I feel like for people who didn't have the common issue of, like, everybody else, where drugs, alcohol played a major part, these programs ended up hurting us more often than not, because we couldn't understand how to take the treatment and the learning and apply it to ourselves, because it was drilled so strongly that this is what an alcoholic thinks, this is what a drug addict thinks, this is what these people think. If that's all you're being taught, and it also, like, demonizes drugs and alcohol. Even up to now, I have never touched any kind of drug because I'm terrified.
Even cigarettes? Even cigarettes?
I smoked cigarettes for 2 weeks, but I was
wow, shortest
I was terrified. I'll even say it now. Like, up until very recently, I was terrified to try anything, because I was led to believe I have such a strong addictive personality that I'll instantly get hooked and I will die from it.
This is 10 years later.
And
you went into the program not having any experience
nope.
with drugs and alcohol other than a sip of some beer.
And I drink occasionally, but again, don't drink very often, because same idea. So
yeah,
I mean, for those of us who never tried it, it also created an allure. So, like, I know kids who went there who never did anything, and when they left, they went right to it.
Yeah.
Because they were like, I've never tried it before, and now, because they made it sound so big and bad, now I have to try it.
Well, and safe because you met all these kids that were on freaking heroin and oxy and all these things for years that were obviously alive. So dare obviously wasn't true. And I mean, how bad could it be?
Right. Right.
Like, and I think that's something that is really important to understand, like with in-group, out-group, and exposure concepts is when you take a kid like you who wasn't a drug addict and you throw them into a rehab-esque world or an outpatient with a bunch of, even if it's not drugs, even if it's just delinquent kids, and now a majority of people they're surrounded by share these like, you know, characteristics or views about the world, like that's going to influence your kids. They're going to come out and
Yeah.
those are the kind of friends they're going to be friends with.
Yep.
If not literally those kids, like literally, like if these things are local, because I hung out with kids outside of the family school the summer after I left, you know, until now. So, I mean, sorry, mom and dad, like you didn't want me to do these things, but yet you put me in like a boarding school to hang out with all of these drug addicts and losers, according to you and shit. And now these are my friends. Like, get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was the same way because I was told I have to go to meetings. So I surrounded myself with air quotes recovering alcoholics and addicts. And their form of recovery was all right. I went a week with nothing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the money for it.
Yeah.
So definitely mind opening and mind boggling to see in hindsight the people I had surrounded myself upon leaving the school because that's what I was comfortable with. I didn't know how to make friends. I'd been forced friendship for so long. I didn't know how to make friends and be around people normally.
Yeah.
So
that's a really real thing. I mean, you have close relationships with people now. Do you talk to them about this experience, or is this something that you just, you know, if it doesn't come up, it doesn't, or
if it doesn't come up, it doesn't. But like again, dark sense of humor. So it's like I make jokes at my own expense. So I mean, if it comes up, like I'm making horrible, inappropriate jokes about it because that's the only way I know how to cope with anything.
right? So they might
So
find out because you tell your really great getting treed by coyotes story, and they're like,
right,
wait.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's actually a major story I tell right now because it's super relevant to the stuff that we're doing now. Like we had believe it or not, about a month ago, we had a coyote on property, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's a coyote, and everyone was like, no, it's a wolf. I was like, nah, I've been up close and personal. They're like, how? And then I go in and I tell them, and then they're like, oh, tell us more about this place. I'm like, you don't want to know more about it.
I'm not sure where the line is between like spectacle, like fascination, and oh wait, you might be crazy. Like,
Yeah, I usually find that line after I've crossed it, and I
yeah,
can see in their eyes like, oh, you're the person that we should watch with one eye
yeah,
open when we sleep.
yeah. Too far,
So
guys.
yeah, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict, and I'm a compulsive liar and a thief. You know, because this one time I stole a Game Boy.
Yep. It pretty much was my announcement section when I was there. Please watch me because I cannot be trusted. I would
Yeah,
have to every period. I would have to say I have an announcement. I'd raise my hand. And I'd say, "Hi, my name is House
yeah.
Brother, and I am dishonest and I am a liar. Please watch me because I can't be trusted."
Which signals to like everyone in your class who isn't in your family, like, oh, this is bait. Like he's safe. Like if we need to call someone out in their family or we need to have a problem, this is the one.
Yep.
That's how I
Yep.
always saw it.
Yeah.
I put a target on you guys.
So it's awful.
So what, you know, especially since you've experienced survivor bullying already, like what made you want to come on the podcast?
I wanted to share, as cliche as this sounds, my experience, my strengths, and my hope. And my experiences are are just as dark all of this, like, I want to reaffirm people to understand that this isn't just an isolated thing. This is going on still across the nation and in other countries, and this is going on. It may not say that it's the family school, or that it labels itself a therapeutic boarding school for at-risk teens. This is going on for LGBT community. This is going on for people who are going into psychiatric wards. Like, this is no different than some of the other institutions out there. My strengths are my own. I mean, I've gone through hell, and I've allowed myself to be burnt, and I've allowed myself to be hurt, but I still come through it strong sometimes. I mean, I'm just like any other person. I have my faults and I have my weaknesses. Um, and I try to look at the good in everything because of this. I don't,
Because of this.
yeah. Like, I know that there was bad stuff that went on there, but I also know that there were opportunities that I would not have been able to experience outside. I worked with Yuri, who was an amazing artist. Uh, I did wood carving skills with um, JB. I did canine search and rescue training, which led me to my passion to help animals. While there was bad that happened there and bad that I experienced, I prefer to look at what I gained from it. Um, and my hope is that other people see that while they also went through horrible things at the school, and for some people it's where they've gone to continue with where they're at right now, and they use it to, like, continue what they're doing with their lives. Because we spoke before about victims, how there are people who only see themselves as a victim, and that they need to show the world that they're strong, and they need to punch back at every person that they see. And then there are victims who see that they're victims and understand that there are other people out there like that, and that they need help just like they did and do. My hope is that other people stop seeing themselves as someone who needs to punch at everything, and become someone who's willing to help others. So,
Amen. Yeah. And what do you think? I mean, if people are willing to do that self work and then to come forward like you are, to hopefully um, allow others to relate to you, and be inspired to move forward and become a survivor instead of stay in victimhood, what do you think we could possibly accomplish? Do you think that we could possibly get this troubled teen industry world to cease and desist? Do you think we could possibly get oversight? Like, do you think it's possible? Where do you see this going?
I mean, I think people need to be aware of it. I think a lot of people are naive, and that they don't believe that these kinds of institutions exist, or they're just made up, or, oh, that kind of stuff happened in the 60s and the 70s. But no, it's still going on today. I think people need to be awake to it, and then change can start. So what we need to do now is awaken everyone to what's going on and what has been going on. And then from there we can
Yeah.
we can incite change, and we can start the movement.
Amen, brother. And thank you for your contribution. I'm really hoping, especially our brothers, it's not that it's rare, because if you look at the ICU survivor videos, there's a lot of males speaking out, and there's a lot of our brothers that are active in advocacy. But I know that a lot of times this really comes off as a lot of us girls like whinging about being put on poverty and not being allowed makeup. So I do appreciate us having your viewpoint out there so that others that have your experience can relate to you, because that's really important with the inclusivity.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. Men don't come forward because of the whole belief that, oh, you're a male, you should just suck it up and continue to swim with the flow of things. But it doesn't happen like that. We all end up drowning at some point or another in this belief that we can't reach out to others.
Yeah.
So It might not be today. It might not be this week, this month, this year, but eventually you're going to find yourself down that stream, and you're not going to have anyone to reach out to, and you're going to hate it because you allowed yourself to live in a world where men don't show their emotions.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a big thing that we're dealing with right now. There's a huge narrative that really discredits and discounts and unseats our brothers from the table. And as dangerous as toxic masculinity has been for generations in America, it is like further destructive when we just completely pretend that boys shouldn't cry and that men are at fault for everything. This idea that men got us here and then they don't have an opinion now. I hear that sometimes, and that really, really concerns me. So I hope our brothers know that like that toxic masculinity and men shaming is just absolute bullshit.
Toxic masculinity doesn't just refer to the way men treat women. First, the way we treat each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, how many men out there, like, how many men have you hugged today? You know, like, when was the last time you told one of your guy friends that you loved them? There's nothing wrong with that. You know, you shouldn't be afraid. You need it. And you deserve it, you know?
I agree.
Well, we'll get there. That'll be our next cause. Or maybe, you know, we'll try to do them all at the same time because we're not trying to compare causes. So all at the same time. All right. Well, I'm going to give you a call after this so we can decompress together. But thank you so much. And is there anything else that you just wanted to make sure that you got out there to the survivor community or the general public before we clip this up?
I think my message was, I hope, clear and concise. I think we all just need to allow ourselves to understand. It's really what it comes down to, understanding. So
yeah. Understanding and accepting the journey and not tolerating any more of child abuse in our, you know, neighborhoods.
Hey, that one of you out there who listened to this episode in its entirety and has already binged through our, you know, little bit of a season we have so far. You know who you are. We're friends on Reddit. We've talked about this. This is still for you. So I'm really glad you're still here. And as we mentioned at the beginning, and as we, you know, like rant and rave about on our different social media pages, we're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all that jazz. We're always trying to make sure that the survivors that are tuning in are aware of the resources that are out there for them. So as we mentioned earlier at the beginning of the podcast, we would love you to reach out to the survivors of well, you know who you are, but survivorsofInstitutionalabuse.org, and that's Sia. So that team has been working for about a decade, and so there is a new fresh-blooded group nationally of survivors from different programs, some of which are very organized. Please check out the Freedom Village experience. They have a lot coming to the surface with investigative reporters and lawsuits that they've been working on. They even stopped their program, Freedom Village, from resurfacing in South Carolina, but unfortunately they've just renamed and merged and are functioning out of Florida. But they have a big news article that just came out about a 10-year-old girl who was sexually abused at their program. And we're talking there are dozens of lawsuits and people who've come forward specifically about their school. But so that school and those survivors are highly, highly organized. And if you're in New York or Florida, please connect with them. Gabriel Gonzalez is really leading that team. He's fantastic. Meredith and I both met with him, and Meredith works with him in New York. Everybody's working on local and federal legislation. We've got documentaries coming out all over the place. Everyone's getting their local news involved, whatever we can be doing. And so if none of that craziness is for you, we have, which it is obviously for us, you can always make a simple breaking code silence video on your frigging cell phone. But before you do that, definitely check out all the Breaking Code Silence videos that are out there. That's organized by different WASP survivor groups, specifically the WASP survivors, and Suburbia's Dirty Little Secret with Sia and Unbroken as well. Like, that whole team is leading that. But Suburbia's Dirty Little Secret is going to host all of those, like, actual full format Breaking Code Silence videos, specifically on YouTube, because the social medias are clipping everything, and we're all having fun trying to figure that out together. But check out the Breaking Code Silence videos, hashtag Breaking Code Silence. Also, hashtag ICU Survivor. We just got a new one, Melting Neurons. Thank you so much. It was just so incredible to see your ICU Survivor video. So hop on YouTube, you guys. Melting Neurons is on Reddit, Trouble Teens. We're all on the Trouble Teens subreddit, and most of us are on Twitter as well and Facebook. So connect with all those groups. If you do not have access currently to mental health support, or maybe not someone that really understands what you've been through with institutional abuse, definitely reach out to Sia and Unbroken and get those referrals. Both of those groups can also assist you in getting referrals for legal support, which if that's something that you're ready to do, you're comfortable doing, and you're within your statute of limitations, or not even, we can talk about how we're going to work around those workarounds, but definitely connect with them as well. And then we have some very interesting documentaries coming out, you guys. And, if you haven't already binged what's out there, Last Stop Film, obviously, Fix My Kids, obviously, you need to see those. And then make sure you see A Boy Called Lucas, which is on YouTube. It's an ABC. But anyways, we've posted about all those, but we just want to make sure that you guys are getting mental health support. Our house brother, actually has therapy tomorrow, right? So we pre-scheduled this, and if we could pre-schedule this for a day before everyone goes to therapy, then that's how we would do testimonial interviews. Unfortunately, not all survivors have access to mental health support, and that's really why we're survivors even after the programs, because the kids that we went to these programs with that we knew personally are still dying today, and we're looking at decades after per program for whoever's individual story is going on, and that doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. So we really need to make sure that everybody has access to mental health support regardless of their ability to pay. So if you're having trouble with that, please reach out to these groups or us, and we'll connect you with them. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode. It meant a lot to Meredith and myself to interview our house brother. And, this is a really interesting, we hope, oral history kind of archival testimonial project. If they want to pretend that this isn't something that's going on, that this multi-billion-dollar troubled teen industry either isn't happening or isn't destructive, then we're going to make sure that we all work together with Breaking Code Silence, with this podcast, with the Timeout Room podcast. Definitely check that out. And we're going to make sure that these stories are out there, so nobody gets the excuse of they didn't know or they thought it was an isolated incident. It's not isolated. It's still happening, but we're going to change that. And we really do appreciate you joining us for this ride. Thank you.